Ukraine's drone attack deep inside Russia on Sunday raised big questions. How will Russia respond? The audacious Ukrainian attack targeted Russian bombers and submarines. All this while Russia is closely assessing and maintaining a strategic silence. Our next report tells you more.
Steel in the skies. Fire beneath the oceans. Thunder rolling on land. Russia's nuclear triad stands as a chilling reminder of the Cold War doctrine, now sharpened by 21st century modernization. This is not saber-rattling, it is Moscow's ultimate deterrent designed to endure the unthinkable. Russia's nuclear deterrent rests on a triad forged for maximum survivability. Land-based missiles, strategic bombers, and submarine-launched weapons, each capable of responding even if the others are destroyed. A nuclear triad refers to a country's ability to deliver nuclear weapons in three ways. Each arm of the triad is built on a simple principle: survivability. If one part is destroyed in a first strike, the other two can respond, ensuring mutual assured destruction. It's a brutal logic. If everyone can retaliate, no one strikes first. For Russia, this structure isn't merely theoretical. It's tested, deployed, and very much real. Russia has several long-range missiles at its disposal, including the Sarmat missile, called Satan by the West. Then there's avant-garde missile, Yars, and Iskander missiles. The strategic missile forces command hundreds of these launchers spread across vast territory, always ready to respond within minutes. On the seas, Russia's Borei A-class submarines silently patrol the depths. Each is loaded with nuclear-tipped missiles capable of striking targets thousands of kilometers away. These stealthy giants form the backbone of Russia's second strike ability, nearly impossible to neutralize in a first wave of attack. This triad is not static, it's evolving. Moscow is actively upgrading its systems, integrating AI, hypersonic tech, and satellite communications. Russia boasts that its strategic forces can withstand even a nuclear first strike and still deliver a devastating counterattack. In the skies, the Tu-160M White Swan and Tu-95MS strategic bombers stand by with cruise missiles and nuclear payloads. These long-range heavyweights loiter in airspace, flexing deterrence through presence. Russia has the world's biggest nuclear arsenal. The US, with more than 5,000 nukes, comes a close second, followed by China, France, the UK, India, and Pakistan. Clearly, these weapons can unleash doomsday, something meant as a deterrent and never to be used again. Bureau Report, WION World One.
By Heino Kling, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, Mr. Secretary. Just 2 days after drone strikes on Russian nuclear bomber bases, Ukraine has now targeted Crimean Bridge. How do you see things developing moving forward?
Thank you very much for having me. Obviously, we have to commend the Ukrainian military on being able to conduct such spectacular strikes deep in the Russian homeland. The drone strikes obviously are unprecedented. And this third attack on the Kerch Bridge, what connects the annexed Crimean Peninsula of mainland Russia, also obviously having a profound effect. These are all operational level attacks, meaning that they will have influence on shaping Russian operations. But let's not think that they're necessarily going to cause the pace of the war to change. I think the timing, given the fact that the Russians and the Ukrainians met yesterday for some peace talks, I think is of note, because the Ukrainians want to be able to demonstrate to the Russians that they do have the ability to reach out and touch them, so that although the Russians have overwhelming preponderance of force and they're striking Ukrainian targets every day, Ukraine can in fact cause damage to Russia. And we've seen that over the last 48 hours.
And do you think that it's curious that President Trump, who often responds to everything, notably on Truth Social, has been silent until now, at least?
I don't think it's necessarily curious at all, frankly. I believe President Trump has been relatively restrained in some of his comments of late, although I think you have seen the tone and tenor become much more forceful towards Putin and the Russian Federation, because it appears obvious that the greatest obstacle to peace is the regime in Moscow. And again, President Trump has prioritized trying to bring peace to Europe, and the Ukrainians have appeared very forward-leaning in terms of being willing to have talks, but it is Putin and his regime that has been an obstacle to peace. So I think you're going to see the rhetoric in Washington change a bit. And then the other piece, of course, as your previous reporting alluded to, the Ukrainians striking Russian strategic bombers does also have an impact, frankly, on the correlation of forces between the United States and the Russian Federation. As your report accurately pointed out, those strategic bombers are an essential piece of the Russian nuclear deterrent Triad. And I think it was prudent of President Trump, as well as other national security leaders in the U.S. government, to refrain from making comments that might appear to be inflammatory, because those targets, frankly, being taken up with the Ukrainians, actually help the United States in the long run in terms of its deterrent against the Russian Federation.
And what about Russia? There's a lot of talk about how Russia may retaliate. Do you have any idea of how that may be?
We're going to see more of the same, basically more strikes against civilian targets in Ukraine. The attack against the Kerch Bridge in particular needs to be remembered in the context of that was Putin's pet project, having personally inaugurated opening that bridge in 2018. It's the longest bridge in Europe. It's the longest bridge the Russians have ever built. So the fact that the Ukrainians were able to use explosives against submerged pillars, I think, is again something that you could envision Putin being personally offended by, because this has been his kind of jewel in the crown of linking Crimea to the Russian Federation. So I think you're going to see, again, more indiscriminate bombings and missile strikes against Ukrainian civilian targets. We've seen that over the last several years by the Russians. And I think the Ukrainians have to steel themselves for that inevitability.
Mr. Heino Klink, thank you so much for joining us on WION. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.